Does an average person really exist? Can we trust AI? Can data tell a story? And can we reach completely different conclusions based on how we present the story? Join me and Jarek for another deep dive into a world where business meets science. This is Two Poles, Not So Far Apart. Enjoy.
So just wanted to say that all the opinions in this podcast are our own, and they do not represent the institutions that we're associated with.
I have a good one to talk about. It's considered swear word in some places, and it's the average. So yeah, average. Average is everywhere, you would agree. And it's probably, I consider it with significantly smaller knowledge around the topic, the most misused tool that we have, across the board. Would you agree with that? Is that something?
Not sure the most, but it's one of the. It's not even misused. It's misunderstood.
Right.
That not everybody will do. Actually, let's find an average person. It's it's impossible, because we have so many aspects of us that finding something on average, on everything, it's, as I said, impossible. Just to give you an example, like we don't even talk about average income anymore.
Right.
Because imagine you have, you draw a sample of 100 people, right, and just by chance, Elon Musk or Bill Gates or somebody like that ends up in your sample. Your average will be huge because they earn millions, billions of dollars, yes? Yep. And that's why, sometimes different measures of, there's this not such a cursed word, it's called median.
Right.
Median is that 50% of, let's say, people are above that number, 50% are below.
Yeah.
So that gives you some idea, and then comparing median and the average or the mean, it's actually very informative because it tells you if they are pretty much the same, your distribution, it's symmetric, right, or almost symmetric. If they are very different, it might be very skewed, meaning right, you might have many large values or small number of large values, many small values, or vice versa.
Right. It's like the, the medieval. You told me that example once.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Was it lifespan or something?
The average lifespan in like medieval times, which is like 35, 40, maybe 40. It was, we think, people lived for such a short time. Yeah. Well, no, it's actually not true, because many kids or many infants died at childbirth. That's age 0. Right. Many other kids died before age 1 or age 5. It was, I read in some sources, like a third of people, like 33% of people died before age of 5. So now, if we include that in the average, if people who live for 70, 80 years, we get this average of 40. Right. But one of the things, and this is something we don't want to go into data as much, but realizing, those other properties or other quantiles, as we would say, is important, because knowing that something on average is 40, that doesn't mean that everybody dies at 40, or that, this is the maximum, or that this is something common.
Okay.
So I would say average is not as dangerous as thinking that average, this is the most common thing. Okay. That's more dangerous.
Right, fair enough. So it's the commonality which is making the bits around that. We use median. Median is used across the board a lot. But it's interesting when you're saying both of those things together. That's actually when you start to get quite good examples.
It's sometimes looking at some other aspects, because something might be on average 20, but there's not much variation. It's like plus minus 1. And I don't want to go into like what this plus minus 1 means at the moment.
Right.
Versus 20 plus minus 10.
Okay.
This is a big difference, because 20 plus minus 1, that means that, everything happens around 20, close to 20. But if it's 20 plus minus 10,
That's where it
Something
becomes an
like 12 or 28 is very possible. I like numbers, as you can
Yeah,
probably
I can
guess.
tell. I can tell you like the bits around that. We have to talk about AI. I mean, you just can't get out. I mean, you just have to
What's
talk about
that?
it. You do know what it is, Jarek. You did mention something which I find really interesting in the conversation. Some of the previous conversations we had was around taking or getting the answer just based on data that we gather, and not looking at some of the past experience or the knowledge that we had around that as well. I think. Well, do you remember what we're talking about? Which sort of
Well, so one example I gave was if we only looked at the data, sun rises in the east in the morning, sun sets in the west in the evening, we would still think that, the sun goes around the earth. Yes, if we just based it purely on the data.
Right.
Yes, if we don't introduce any other knowledge that we have about the universe and so on, that's what data tell us.
Okay.
But I'm always warning people, data don't tell us anything.
Okay.
Data are not everything.
You did say it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's how we use data, what other information we use about them, what methods we use to analyze them, and what conclusions we draw. That's a huge topic.
Okay. And it's we'll make a podcast about that.
We'll
see at a specific time. We did talk about it, and we did say if you wouldn't have the knowledge, I think the example was Red Riding Hood in the woods would just look at the wolf with. It's a good example of just being, in the nice clothes, and if you know the teeth and everything are dangerous, that's where you know it's actually there. So probably Red Riding Hood just used the data then, or maybe just used AI or things to get the conclusions. Anyway, that's I'm sure that's very useful for all of the business people around the world.
AI is bad or good.
I know.
It depends.
All right.
That should be
I'm only
a catch
asking.
phrase.
I'm using it a lot. I'm using it a lot lately. However, though, I do use it a bit more text-wise. But I can see now how more efficient it is to actually start to do some answers and actually get to some. That's why I'm coming back to it quite often, because I know everyone. It's the subject now, isn't it? All over the world.
Well, one of the things. So this was before your times, but there was this worry that computers will replace people.
Oh yeah.
They didn't.
Okay.
But people who knew how to use computers replaced people who couldn't use computers. It's the same with AI, it's the same with ChatGPT, with all such things. It's not actually that will replace us. Again, this is my opinion. It's not opinion of my employer. This is my opinion, but it's something that certain occupations these days, like somebody specializing in prompt engineering, this is an occupation now. You can actually get a pretty good job on that. Will it be still an occupation in 1 year, in 5 years? We don't know. Yeah. But the world is changing. It's changing fast. And I know I'm making those grandiose statements, but...
It is true, though. Yeah. But the most important thing to get out of this part is it's data, plural.
Data are useful.
Useful, fair enough.
They can be dangerous if used... I don't want to go into like politics or something like that, but I saw Oppenheimer just recently.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And it's not that atomic power or atomic energy is dangerous in itself.
It's how you
what we use it. Yes, what we use it for.
Did you see Barbie at the same day
as well? Of course, not the same day, but
I did it on the same day.
The same day, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. Right, we talk a lot about how to solve issues. Well, I think so. Well, part of it, how to get the data, and I guess use it with cautious. I do have one topic which is really close to my heart, and you mentioned election, you mentioned other bits, and there's. Let's imagine you solve the issue, whatever, any given one. You need to present the data, or the actual, well, effects or the things around that. And then, you know, in business, that's quite often means you need money. So you need to convince people to actually give you that.
Everybody needs money.
Everybody needs money. You did tell me that once, that your business currency is dollars and pounds, and then scholars' currency is publications, didn't you?
Yeah. Grants, publications.
Yeah, right. However, though, coming back to the original bit that I wanted to say, data presentation. So, again, a thing that I see everywhere and all the time, something which can get even the best issue solved in the best way that you have, is sometimes done, the presentation of data that is done such a way that it's basically blurring the picture completely. And the best example for it is scales, and having two different scales on the same data topics or on different areas. How does it work in the science? Do you put a lot of pressure to that?
Yes, we do, and I think with better tools these days, it's even, I mean, if you don't want to end up on like Twitter or X now with like a funny presentation, you better do it well.
Okay.
So scales is one thing, but also it's, and again, I'm going into those saying or cliches, you know, it's like there is lies, big lies and statistics.
Right.
This is attributed to Mark Twain, but you know, it's different people said it at different times, because with the same numbers, the same data, you can present a picture that looks very rosy, very good, or you can say, oh, everything is as it was.
Right.
Now, you mentioned scales. There are other things that you can combine data presentation. Let's say if you apply for something, apply for money, and you get the money.
Right.
You can stack them up. And then it looks like everything is going up, but that might mean that you only applied for more funds, but you didn't get them. But this,
so
you know,
in a
what
way,
you
like,
got is
I
kind
wanted
of
10
hidden.
million, but I had it there, but you show it on the graph, and
yes.
basically it just shows the bigger number.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there are different ways, and you know, I'm not saying I'm an expert in that. In lying with data, I try to find faults with presentations. And one of them that I saw very recently, it was actually published in a very prestigious journal. It was presentation of the kind of in different countries, how many people die from cold and how many people die from hot, like hot weather and cold weather.
Right, okay. Thought like cold, right. That's a...
Well, it's, what do you think?
It lasts 7 days, but...
No, sorry. Cold weather and hot weather. And it was, when you looked at the picture, it looked at the number of people dying from both, you know, hot weather and cold weather is approximately the same. But for the hot weather, they had a scale that was going to a certain number, and there was a break, and there was a different number, you know, on that scale. So it looked the same, but actually when you looked, you had to look carefully. It's like order of magnitude different, where, you know, it was like tens versus hundreds. So yes, the presentation of data, presentation of information is super important, and I would never advertise lying with data, and I'm kind of on the other side trying to find, when people sometimes, I'm not saying it's always on purpose, sometimes it's like, we don't start the scale from 0, you know, we started from 50 and the thing goes from like 50 to 60 and it looks, it's like the whole plot. It's like, wow, such a huge increase. But then when you see they didn't start from 0, they started from some high number. It's actually moderate increase, modest increase.
Fair enough. Let's take a really close one. There's a bit of a noise over there. Let's give it it's not like an ice cube maker or something like that.
That's kind of fun.
It's everything here. I mean, literally. Yeah, anyway, we'll be all right. Well, I mean, why I'm saying that, I'm actually, I know you don't advertise it. I'm actually not completely sure what I'm trying to get out of this particular thing through it. Because I can't lie, you know, in business world, sometimes, you know, part of the efficiency or part of the presentation is actually show the data to look a little bit better than it is. And we had a
just paint it nice colors and.
Is that's what it is?
Yeah, that's
If you put the wrong colors, actually, that's. Do you think colors have any? Do you think?
Oh
any,
yeah.
Yeah, really.
Actually, it's.
Oh yeah, you're right. If you have a red or a green one, that
Yeah.
makes a massive difference. Yeah.
And one of the things, and this is slightly off on a tangent, but if you have, let's say, a few lines on a plot or something, you have to be very careful not to have colors that might be mistaken, or if somebody is colorblind, where like
Right. Okay.
red and blue, we don't use it, or or red and green, because it might show up as maybe different shades of gray for
Fair
people
enough.
who are colorblind. So,
Right. So it's more from like an experience perspective. And
well,
the
it's experience, but also knowledge about there are specialized color palettes, or so you don't misrepresent in an unintended way what you want to
Fair
represent.
enough. Okay.
Again, this was off on a tangent. I know this wasn't your point.
That wasn't. No, I mean, I'm trying to figure out where I'm getting to this, and I remember. I mean, we had a meeting or a part of a lecture in our past ones when we had when I was supplying the data, and we talked with very young students actually, and they were doing some analysis and bringing back the results. And I remember you were going, because they were going through the presentation. I was just sitting there more from a consultative perspective, but you did mention the scale and the sort of a presentation way, and then I made a comment around, if you actually want to sell it, you need to do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, you weren't happy about that, so I'm not going to push you to do any of those things, but maybe, for some of the people would be, I think there's a lot of people would be even more interested how to do it the wrong way than the way that you actually do it.
And again, there's a purpose, yes? So again, I would never advertise lying with data, but of course we want to present what we want to present in the best way.
Right.
Yes. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do something. It's more example by example, but
You have to take it one by one. Yeah.
Putting things on the same scale, showing basically not lying with data.
Right. So let's not
always advertise that.
Right. So I would guess let's not make it up. Let's not make the data completely different. But I mean, there is a bit of a thing around. There's a marketing in data as well, which you could absolutely.
There's a purpose.
Right.
It's not just you present data for presenting data, but there's a purpose for your presentation. Yeah.
Right.
And there is this saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. But I hope those words are not, kind of hiding things. Like, again, business versus, let's say, health, medicine.
Yeah.
You don't want to, I mean, this would be breaking a law if you were hiding side effects.
Right.
And actually a few medications were taken off the market, not because they were so dangerous, not because they were like worse than others, but because the side effects were hidden from public.
Right.
This is actually a punishable offense.
Yeah.
And, even if something is not punishable, the kind of the public perception of you were hiding something, your sales will go down. So
absolutely.
Sometimes it's not worth it to make a rosy picture.
That's a really good point, actually.
Because the perception actually might kill you, not the actual numbers.
You'll have a much more and the biggest impact and a negative impact from actually getting caught. I mean, it's a useful thought because, like I said, people use it, and you want to tell the story again, not being coming back to your thing and having a bit of a, you talk about healthcare, but you talk about managing teams, you talk about managing budgets and things. I mean, there's money connected, there's shareholders and things around that. So I'm absolutely in the same space. Let's not lie with data. But obviously you want to tell a story, even to the point of the things that we talked about on averages or medians. I mean, you sometimes just want to make a point around something even being done differently. But you're right. The risk of actually having bad publicity is like with, I guess, environmental topics or any other topics right now. If they really, to your point, land on X or Twitter, that's where where the problems are big and the gains that you get from it. No. Right. I think you convinced me not to dig into that subject too much, Jarek. So I was going to, but yeah.
I'm going back to the point about, there's a purpose.
Right.
Yes? So it's not just we don't flash, a graph or something in front of the people just for, it's like, see.
Yeah.
It's more, okay, this is what happened, this is, where we are. And just remember, it's, again, this is more from the jokes on Twitter or something like that. Don't flip your chart, the other way.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea. But then, I would say, if you want to, like, we had this discussion about some of the products that might be more popular during certain times, or that it's. Yeah, I'm going back to correlation. That let's say you sell more of one product, almost by definition, you might sell less of another product if they are in the same kind of space of selling stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
So present both, or present the sum, present something that shows the full picture. Yes.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Cool. We're touching psychology here, and I did actually note down, and I know we sometimes get to a point, by exchanging some of the examples, I guess, sometimes funny, but we did talk about colors and things, but I'm really, something that I'm really passionate about is the sort of the storytelling and the psychology that goes with certain presentations. And I can't remember what the name was for that thing. I think it was in there was a book I wrote where there was a budget for a massive spend on a nuclear reactor in a found. It's just an example over there, and then a bike rack or something as a second part of the agenda. And the community would, the board would sit down and make the decision around that. And because the guys didn't, nobody was an expert there about nuclear power or the things. They just said like, right, have you spoken with that? Have you discussed that? It was a $100 million bill. And they said like that passed in 5 minutes. The bike rack costed, $1,500, and the conversation was for 60 minutes or something like that, and everyone had an opinion about it as well. And it's almost, when you look at the data, clearly, if you can afford a 100 million thing, you can afford a bike rack, but the actual, focus goes into something which is really not, significant, or whatever I call it. I don't know if you have any thoughts around that, but I'm really into. I guess it also links with some of the things around when you're selling stuff or when you're selling cars. You told me that example once.
Is the amount of time versus effort versus gain or something? It's more in that vein that you mean?
I don't think I know where I'm going with this one. I think it sort of sparks a few things around there. But I'm really into, when you tell the story with data, I'm getting the psychology is a really important thing which touches it. And I think we did use sales is one thing. I'm buying a car in UK right now, and I'm not buying a car, I'm buying a monthly installment, and looking at it is a completely different thing as well.
There are examples of that, you know. So, for example, like what you are saying, they give you a price, like monthly price. Can you afford, let's say, paying £600 monthly, not the full price of the car? Yeah. Another thing is, and that I saw, it's actually. What I will say next is, I think it's pretty misleading advertising. You are not paying like $1,400 for something. You are just making, $14 $100 installments, on that. So you can spend $100 per month. Yes, which is again, it's going to the psychology of kind of decision making and how we present stuff. It's not that we're lying, but it's very different. How this is seen by somebody as an option, yes. So, what you were saying about this nuclear plant and the bike rack, you said there were no specialists or no experts in the room, and it's like, let's agree to that because we don't know much about it. But then everybody knows about the bike rack. Right. From my field, I have actually the research that I'm doing. I do research in two primary areas. One is brain imaging, another one is wearable computing. So when I say wearable computing, think like Apple Watch, Fitbit, or something like that. Everybody understands the number of steps. If I have to talk about brain imaging, and you have to sit there and listen for half an hour even what I want to say, it's like everybody will be sold on an idea that they understand. I can talk to people for hours about it, yes. So, yes, it's a topic that, as you were saying, is very interesting from the psychological point of view. What we can sell, what we can present, what we can talk about depends on the background of whoever is in the room.
Yeah. And is it similar? I mean, probably, you know, you have some big sellers, not to mention the name, the big guys that create the need and talk about certain things. Like, I mean, we'd probably have some devices around here from that company as well. Is it a similar thing in science as well? I mean, you've got grants. You said everyone needs money, so.
Well, you have to sell your idea, even though it's like there's a thought that this is all objective.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
There are popular things. You know, if you were working on on a medication to shrink your ears versus, grow your hair, well, you will get money, to grow your hair. I'm talking about myself, but...
That's not your field?
That's not my field.
No, okay.
Well, talking about something like that, and this is going to a prior topic we talked about, this average. These days, all the rage is this medications that make you lose weight.
Yeah.
And there are different companies that went on the market with such medications. And some companies, it's actually not solving, not curing cancer, not solving, maybe some other problems that might be more relevant to humans, but it's like this losing weight. That's
but there's a business case. Yes. I guess there's a business case. So that's
it started not with losing weight. It was helping people with diabetes. Yes.
But
as a side effect, it's losing weight.
So basically it started to get traction and the big money and all of that things as soon as we do it. There's another one like that, I think, in the history, which was blue. A blue pill over there as well, which was helping. That's actually interesting. So look, we found a really common thing between the two worlds, I guess, and the thing is called business case as well. I mean, you always have to tell the story to sell that.
It's not, it's, how should I put it? It's not that it wasn't a common thing. It's just, I think, emphasis. And, it's, we're still trying to solve big problems, but you need money to solve big problems.
You need to do it, right. Okay.
Whoever provides the money. It might be, the sales of a product, or it might be you might extend your hands to the government or to the governmental agency, to a foundation, to something, but you need money to solve problems.
Okay, right. Fair enough. I'm thinking, the last thing I'd say around the particular thing, I mean, we talked a lot about data and everything, so I did take a few things for myself in the business world, let's say. First of all, it's datum singular and data plural.
Nobody says
so I'll remember that.
Yeah.
And then I guess, I said a few things, but the most important one is, it is hovering around the thing around it depends question. I mean, data is there, information is there, and we have to use it, but we have to use it with caution.
Wait. Data are there.
Data are
information.
There.
No, that I don't care about. Information, that's a tricky thing. And the next level knowledge. We talked about data, and we talked a bit about randomization, controlled experiments. Usually we don't have that luxury. What you said about the Spitfire bullet, the bullet holes. How much information can you gain from that when you don't observe half of the data or the data that are very useful? That's a different story. And maybe that's a topic for the next...
That's a topic for another chat.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that, Jarek. That was really useful. If you find the topics in the discussion interesting, please do subscribe and push the subscribe button, because that will allow us to make many more interesting subjects into our conversation.
Yeah, we will have guests, we will have, we'll talk about other interesting topics, so let us know. What do you think?
Let us know what you think and push that button, please.